Hello and welcome everybody to this evening's Tiny Dorm Concert live stream. Tonight's show's been curated by the Telegraph Quartet, which is, well, this is half of us, but since Jeremiah and I can't really play because of our living situations, we're going to be your co-hosts for this evening. These Tiny Dorm Concerts are productions put on by the entire SFCM community. We've got students from college and pre-college, faculty, alumni, bringing in guests. These concerts are, basically to keep us connected to each other and our wonderful world of music spinning. So guys, we'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Let us know what you're doing, where you're at, what you're eating, what kind of beverage you're having for tonight's show. Jeremiah, are there some comments coming in? See what people are doing out here?
Not quite yet, but why don't we just get started? And first, I want to thank a very special thanks to Harry Winston for all their support and long-standing commitment to the San Francisco Conservatory. Everybody here at the Conservatory is so grateful for this wonderful partnership that supports our community of students, music educators, and performers, being able to bring into the world our wonderful, inspiring concerts. As for tonight's concert, we wanted to present a program of duos. Since it's our greatest passion, chamber music, we thought the best way to share that passion was to curate and present chamber music. So we have for you tonight 3 wonderful sets of duos presented by our very own Joseph and Paling of the Telegraph Quartet, and our good friends and SFCM alum, Carlton and Catherine of the Del Sol Quartet, and Chris and Kumiko of the Thalea String Quartet. Tonight's performances will feature works by Mozart, Martinů, Gabrielina Frank, Jonah Gallagher, and Telemann. Also, at the end of our program, we're going to feature a special video appearance from our friend and composer, John Harbison, who was very gracious to share commentary on his 6th string quartet, while we watch and listen to a clip of the Telegraph Quartet's live performance that we recorded in a recital in the Salon back in April of 2018.
I just gotta say, that sounds like a nightmare. I hate listening to myself, and then now we're gonna listen to ourselves with a bunch of people watching. So, well, that's how it goes.
Right.
All right, so I think that probably gives us about enough time for everybody to have grabbed their snacks and to get ready. So let's get this program started. First up, who better to ask about the community of chamber music than Bonnie Hampton? So Bonnie started our conservatory chamber program back in a while ago, and she's guided so many successful musicians, and that's directly responsible for the community of music that we have today. I've had the privilege and pleasure of being inspired by Bonnie for so many years, and something that I've developed a real curiosity for is the thought process of these great artists, what they think about, what their perspective is, what values do they hold dear that makes their music do what it does. So we're so fortunate to have you with us, Bonnie, here tonight to share some thoughts on chamber music.
Hello, so good to be with you. Thank you, Eric, and thank you for inviting me to say a few things about chamber music. It's my favorite subject, so you'll have to cut me off at the right time. I just want to share just a little bit my own connection with the conservatory in terms of chamber music, and it did start that way back in the 50s, and I promise we won't go too slowly through, with the Griller Quartet, the English quartet that was here in residence. So I started with a very rich, we were just playing chamber music all the time, and that's when I definitely got bitten by the chamber music bug. I knew I wanted to do everything in music, but I knew that needed to be central in my life. The Alma Trio was also here at that time. And so that was a very, inspiring time for us as teenagers here. And then going forward to the 70s and 80s, that was when my trio, the Francesco Trio, was in residence at the Conservatory. And we had a very wonderful supportive administration who liked all our enthusiasm. We were doing well professionally. We had a lot of ideas of how we wanted to build the Conservatory Chamber Music. And so out of our residencies and our concerts and so on, evolved the Chamber Music West Festival, which went for about 10 or 12 years, something like that. And we brought some of the wonderful chamber musicians from all over the country. I'd love to start naming names, but that's not the point right now. And the idea was older and younger chamber music players playing together and putting together a festival every year. And we had a wonderful time, and I think the audiences had a wonderful time too. And then the natural thing, you see, the chamber music program was developing very well, and the natural thing out of that, so the chamber music major idea didn't just happen overnight. It evolved out of a chamber music program that was strong and being productive and had a lot of enthusiasm and so on. And so we became the first chamber music major in the country. There are other ones now. They've thought it was a good idea, so that's good that other people also feel it's a good idea. My concept for the major, you see, for a group to develop, get repertoire, therefore be able to start making a concert life and concert career, you need to have repertoire. And so my idea was for the conservatory to give a 2-year umbrella to groups that were serious and wanted it, where they would get coaching, they would have their own series, they would really develop repertoire, and that was the important thing, to get experience doing things and repertoire and so on to be ready. So that was how the chamber music program came out of all of the things that had happened before. And then jumping now to today, you're presenting some of the fruits of that, not only in your own quartet, but some of the other players and quartets that have been influenced by the conservatory and are developing their own musical lives. And I just want to say personally, having taught so long and been involved so long, this is one of the greatest joys of having been involved for so long, to go around the country, which I've done in many places and met with many former students over the years, to see how people are developing, how they're developing themselves, how they're contributing to their communities. And I mean, that's what makes being a musician make sense, frankly. It's a real inspiration to see what all of you are doing and what you're doing tonight. So I can hardly wait to hear the concert. So I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to tell you a little bit about the program. I mean, not the program, about how we got here. And I'm very enthusiastic and optimistic about the future of chamber music at the Conservatory. We've got the Telegraph Quartet in residence. We have a marvelous chamber music faculty with enormous amount of experience. So many, active players right now involved in chamber music, but who've had professional groups that have had real careers in chamber music. So I just think everybody's doing what they should be doing, chamber music. And it's also, besides, it's a great way to figure out how to work well with other people, isn't it? Yes. So, well, we have the most wonderful music to work with, and that's why we all do it. So anyway, thank you, Eric, and can't wait for the program.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's great to hear you talk. Your attitude and your spirit and encouragement of fighting for what's important, I think, is what ensures that the future will also continue to fight for it.
Well, thanks.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, for being with us this evening. Now, to get the music going, I want to introduce my very good friends and members of the Telegraph Quartet, Joseph Maile and Pei-Ling Lin, and they will introduce what rep they will be playing for you guys, and we're looking forward to hearing a wonderful program. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Hailing to you from Oakland, Lake Merritt here. We are going to do some of the Mozart and Martinů that you heard about before. So violin for me and viola for Pei-Ling.
Because the big one.
Yeah. We're going to be playing, well, first off, we're going to do this lovely duo by Mozart. A lot of times people play his first duo, but we chose his second, and it has this incredible second movement. Andante Cantabile, it's this wonderfully lilting aria of a movement. Perfect for, I think, an evening like this. And afternoon, soon to be evening. And then we're going to jump to the Czech composer Martinů, Bohuslav Martinů. 150 years later, he's wrote this piece in the 1940s. His 3 madrigals will do his third one. It's an Allegro, and it's kind of like folky fiddle music. I think the last thing I'll say, and then we'll get to the music, is that there's a wonderful connection, I think, between Mozart and just Czech composers in general. There's like an effervescence. The Czechs loved Mozart back in his day. In Prague, his operas were a great hit. And I feel like even though the Martinů is way later, it's looking back on Mozart as a neoclassical piece and has that same kind of verve and fun and kind of abandon that we love, and effervescence that we love in Mozart. All right.
Bravo, you guys. That was so amazing.
You guys sound so good. I can't wait to play with you again.
I know,
Oh my God.
it really made me miss chamber music. You guys played that Mozart. I was like, bringing tears to my eyes. And then that was so exciting, the Martinů. Can't wait to get back together with the quartet and be whole again.
You guys are bouncy. So, next up on the program, let me make sure I get this right. My pleasure to introduce the one and only, the two and only, Charlton and Catherine of the Del Sol String Quartet.
Thanks, Eric. As he mentioned, we're the half of the Del Sol String Quartet. Tonight you're seeing half of many...
The lower half.
The lower half of the Del Sol String Quartet. And we play the music of living composers. And that's really exciting for us because it's such a just incredible opportunity to work with people on their own music. This season has been kind of a crazy one for us musicians. But one unexpected thing that has been great is just the amount of music that people have been giving us to perform for the first time. And our friend Jonah Gallagher, who's a wonderful, talented alum from SFCM, woke up one morning, wrote this piece, and sent it to us and said, "Hey guys, I wrote this morning for you guys." And it's a duet. So we thought we'd play that for you today. It's called Distance by Jonah Gallagher. Thanks. I love how I think it's because we're the lower instruments that we want to play something soulful and beautiful. So.
All right. So for our next piece, this is a piece called Zapatos de Chincha, which means the shoes of Chincha. And it's a piece by Gabriela Elena Frank. And I think one of the wonderful things about playing the music of living composers, especially chamber music of living composers, is the interaction that we have with the composers directly. So when we, the Del Sol Quartet, celebrated our 25th anniversary a couple of years back, Gabby gave us this piece as a birthday present for the quartet. Well, actually for the two of us. And she especially arranged it for us just for that occasion, and we're going to share that with you today. It's kind of a quirky and slinky dance based on South American dances, and there's an ABA section to it. I hope you enjoy. Zapatos de Chincha.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Oh, that was awesome. It's so great to see you guys and hear you. Yeah, I'm so excited to play chamber music again.
Bravo, you guys. That was really beautiful. For those of you that might have just joined us, this is the SFCM Tiny Dorm Concert Series 2.0. and they're going to be going on for another couple of weeks. But to get back to the show now, we're going to go live from Austin, Texas, with Chris and Kumiko from the Thalea Quartet.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who's tuned in to listen, and to our friends and colleagues who have played for us tonight. It's been such a joy to see you again and to hear you play. And to Telegraph for asking us to be a part of this. We're really happy to be here. And to everyone, really, who played a part in making this happen. It's been a really enjoyable night listening to all of you in our living room, and now we're excited to share some music with you. I've just been thinking about, during this time and with everything that's happening in the world, I think it has a lot of us reflecting on what it is we do and why we do it and what we love and miss about it. And tonight, I think, has been such a good example of something that I love so much about chamber music, and that is that it brings us a community. And we're able to connect with people all across the world and from all walks of life. And whether that's with peers or mentors and colleagues or the audience that we get to build through what we do, it's a really special thing that we get to do with chamber music. And this concert is, like I said, such a good example of that. So I'm really thankful to the community that we have here and to SFCM for bringing us all together. I think we were all at some point drawn to the school because of the love and guidance and nurturing that it gives chamber music specifically. So tonight is a great example of that as well. So thanks to all of you for being part of our community. I'll pass it off to Chris.
The piece we're playing tonight is by Telemann, and it's essentially a musical rendering of Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. So in each of the short 5 movements, Telemann uses really kind of innovative compositional techniques to tell the story of the different places that Gulliver goes and the characters that he meets. So we'll introduce each movement before we play them, tell you a little bit about each character, but the piece starts off with a spirited introduction that sets the scene for the story.
Lilliputians are very tiny people who are only 6 inches tall, and we see this in the music. It's depicted with very tiny rhythmic units. And we like to think of this movement of the Lilliputians having a big party, and to them it's giant, but to our ears it's really very small because they're in fact only 6 inches tall.
Now, Gulliver travels to the land of Brobdingnag, where he meets a crew of giants, a group of massive giants who are 60 feet tall. And in this movement, Telemann uses very large rhythmic units to depict these giants trying to have a graceful dance.
to meet the Laputans. These are people who spend all of their day daydreaming about science, and they are constantly having to be woken up by their servants. So you'll hear dreamlike, beautiful, relaxed music and these little pokes and interruptions.
strange species. The first, the Houyhnhnms, are horse-like people. They have horse heads, but they act like humans. They're incredibly refined and well-read and intelligent. The other species are the Yahoos, who look like people, but they're kept in cages because they're so brutish and nasty and dirty. So in this movement, Telemann gives each violin a different character. So in this case, Kumiko, of course, is the elegant, intelligent, horse-like person, and I take the part of the brutish Yahoo.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bravo, you guys. That was so wonderful. Brilliant playing and such an incredible musical journey you took us on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you. Say hi to the rest of the quartet, the other half of Thalea, or the Leah part. All right. So, where are we, Jeremiah? Is this time to face the music? It's us, isn't it? All right. I'm ready. So, next on the program is Telegraph Quartet, us and Joseph Impaling with John Harbison. So since we can't actually get together and perform this for you guys, we took one of our performances from April, was this 2018, Jeremiah?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. And, you know, we chose this piece because it has a lot to do with isolation and community and how those things interact. And, well, of course, as things are now, it seems quite relevant. So we'll be playing our performance of the first two movements with commentary from well, none other than John himself. But we'll get started off with some thoughts from John about the string quartet as an entity.
There is in the history of the quartet a unique emphasis placed on continuity of personnel. That is, there's very few other entities in music where such a huge to-do is made over changing a member or figuring out how to continue with a new member. I mean, the quartet, I've imagined this situation that starts this quartet as being akin to something I have known to be true in something as unusual, a society as unusual as a string quartet. Someone is not there for a while. It's a little bit to me like an injury in sports or someone who's a holdout. Someone who for some reason can't participate for a while. Someone who is psychologically or physically unable to participate. That was what drove the idea of this quartet, the sense that a string quartet, almost more than any other little microcosm of society, is tremendously dislocated by the absence or the withholding of membership of some member. And I've always been interested in that phenomenon. It seemed to me string quartets are a test of compatibility. think one of the experiences of the chamber musician, since we work in rehearsal with each other, but we often have to do a lot of our time separately by ourselves, is trying to figure how we do fit together. And particularly the string quartet has been such a laboratory for centuries for how personalities find ways to feel time the same way, to feel sound the same way, to have some sense that they are actually playing together rather than just playing their parts. What I was trying to have some control over in the first movement of this piece was trying to keep the trio more or less in their world, in their state of contemplation as much as possible, in a sort of more steady state. The kind of exchange that they have, they work over similar materials from sort of different angles, but their vocabulary remains very steady. The violinist becomes more insistent, and with each stage is more impatient and more insistent at being heard. At the beginning, I wanted that sense of the violinist playing something they could be playing for themselves. And there's quite a bit of reiteration of a short pattern that seems to come quite many times. And it's something as if the violinist is finding, here's what I want to say here, but I'm a little stuck in this world here. And I think each stage, when the movement of the player seemed necessary, I tried to find what is the element that the player can present that will make it necessary for finally the other players to let go. And of course, the point is really where the violinist is more inventive right at the end of their entry, and the players get stuck. The little trio just gets on a kind of reiterative mission and really has only one little phrase to offer. In other words, at that point, they're listening more than playing. That was the idea. I wanted to very much picture the sense of the old sense of the violinist, the first violinist, as a kind of, this piece is balanced more to the first violin than many quartets, the kind of titular leader who has to find a way to present their material such that the lead is accepted. I had the experience when I was a kid growing up of knowing a couple of very strong quartet leaders. Rudolf Kolisch, who was a tremendous presence in Boston for a long time, who came through the era when the quartet leader was an independent maverick kind of presence, some with a very strong sense of belonging, but not belonging. That is to say, of having another vision, which was one of the things they brought to the quartet. In that moment when the player arrives, that the player seemed to me someone who had been either forced to or chosen exile or retreat, and had then gone through whatever was necessary to rejoin. The next process that seemed to me to need to happen in the piece was the leader, the first violinist, proposes a material to the quartet. And everyone in the quartet in some ways sort of has to contribute to absorbing or taking up that material. It's probably been a good thing in our time that the grandeur of the quartet leader has been somewhat abandoned, just as we don't have the conductors who can fire people in the middle of rehearsal and so forth. We don't have all of that, I would say, 19th, early 20th century a kind of condition, but we do still have the sense of apartness and of responsibility that the loner or the independent might bring.
All right. Thank you, I guess, us, Telegraph Quartet, and of course, John Harbison for sharing your thoughts with us on such a wonderful string quartet. I know technology isn't a strong suit and kind of difficult to use, but we're so happy that you're able to make this little clip with us and talk about how your piece deals with the idea of balance of the individual versus the group, and that's something for us to consider as hopefully soon we'll be returning back into society.
Great. Well, if you guys enjoyed what you heard tonight, please share this online and tune into the next live broadcast. Tomorrow night, we have Violin Night. Sunday is pre-college night. And if you're curious what is to follow, you can follow SFCM on social media. And if you feel inspired, you can also consider making a gift to support the students working so hard during these times. This second edition of Tiny Dorm Concerts will continue probably to the middle of the month. So please check out the full performance calendar at sfcm.edu to see the full schedule. Again, I want to give a special thanks to Harry Winston for all the support, and especially all of the musicians that joined us this evening: Joseph, Peiling, Charlton, Catherine, Chris, Kumiko, and of course, Bonnie. We're so happy that you could join us this evening. And as well, we want to also thank all of the SFCM tech crew for all their help to make all this happen seamlessly. Thank you so much to everybody. From all of us at SFCM, have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.